Nice cold water on a hot day. Well, hello, vinyl community. So, I have some records to show, so let's get right down to it. The first one, and actually my most recent pickup, The Party, 12-inch single of Summer Vacation from 1990. Most of you probably aren't familiar with them because unfortunately they kind of fell between the two peaks of boy bands, those being perhaps best identified by New Kids on the Block and NSYNC. So they kind of fell between those two. But they still met with some success, especially internationally. But again, this is their first single, so I was thrilled to pick it up. And I do have to say, it was a thrill recently meeting three members of The Party just recently at downtown Disney. And two of them I had basically never really met before. One I had spoken to briefly before, but let me tell you, I went back to being a teenager. And so I was geeking out and yeah. But basically they're a pop group that formed out of the all new Mickey Mouse Club, or MMC as it's often called. Yeah, so what really set them apart was it was three guys and two girls, and it was multi-ethnic. So yeah, great stuff, and this was a great first single. So I was thrilled to pick this up on vinyl. Yeah, and basically all their stuff is out of print now. So some of the albums, even on CD, are pretty valuable. We're talking like, $40, $50. So yeah, I was thrilled to pick that up. All right. This next one, all right, so the next four actually are thanks to Super Wes. So he had mentioned that or I guess beyond mentioning, he showed some records he picked up on deepdiscount.com, which it never crossed my mind to look on there for vinyl. I thought of them, for CDs and DVDs, and that was basically it. They do have, I think, books on there, and maybe some other stuff as well. I think even magazines or something. But anyway, so he showed some stuff he picked up on there, and so I had to check it out. So I just picked out four albums. Two were kind of blind buys, and the other two were not. All right, so the first one of those four is Josh Ritter, and this is Fever Breaks. Basically, he's a folk singer-songwriter, and this particular album, I believe his most recent, is kind of Americana or roots rock, and it was a good listen. He's compared kind of to Jason Isbell, Ryan Adams, Damian Rice. So if you like any of those, you'll probably enjoy this a lot. So I definitely enjoyed it. So that was a good blind buy for me. All right, now okay. I almost wonder why I picked this up. I guess I was a little too optimistic, perhaps, but this is the latest album from Stone Temple Pilots. And again, these were cheap, I want to say the average, including including free shipping, was like $7, somewhere around there. Well, basically 4 albums for, I think, $28, whatever that works out to. Yeah, that'd be $7 actually. Yeah. So Stone Temple Pilots. Obviously, this was after Scott Weiland left us, unfortunately. He was replaced with Jeff Gutt, who I guess they discovered on the X Factor, the TV music competition show, the US version, apparently. I was kind of unimpressed by this. A lot of especially the heavier songs, kind of all sounded the same. And honestly, the slower songs or the ballads ended up being the better songs on the album. Which, I mean, I was never really a big Stone Temple Pilots fan, so, and that's kind of why I wonder why I picked this up, other than the fact that it was cheap and I had heard of the band. But yeah, for me, they're one of those bands that really was defined by their lead singer. Scott Weiland, you can't really replace him. You know, he was a very unique singer, had his own distinctive voice, and not to mention the Jeff Gutt, although, you know, he's a good singer, they kind of buried his vocals in all the grungy guitars, this being basically alternative post-grunge music. They kind of buried his voice, which actually ends up, you know, sounding good on the slower tracks, and I think that's why I like those better. But if I heard this album just on the radio or whatever, it would not even cross my mind that this was Stone Temple Pilots. So I don't think I could recommend that one unless you're a huge Stone Temple Pilots fan and are kind of a completist. This next one, I was very pleased. It was a blind buy, and it just, I was very curious about it. So, and it's kind of ironic because Vinyl Richie recently showed some concert footage of this artist. So it's Ty Segall and White Fence with the album Joy. And it's kind of a metallic cover. Yeah. Now this is considered garage punk or neo psychedelia, which explains why, you know, Vinyl Richie likes it. The garage punk aspect to it. Anyway, so I was hard pressed to find something to compare them to. So looking it up on allmusic.com, it had a long list of similar artists, and the only name I recognized was The OCs. So, so if you're familiar with The OCs, this might be up your alley. But regardless, I love this album. It was excellent, an excellent blind buy. Thrilled to pick it up. So there you go. All right, this next one, and the last one of those four that I got on deepdiscount.com. This was an artist I discovered. I think they had a song on the soundtrack to the video game NHL 2003, I believe. I'm pretty sure. So that's how I first discovered them, and I knew I liked them. And when I saw this on deepdiscount.com, I was thrilled. So this is Between the Buried and Me, Automata 1? Or is it Automata? Automata? Gatefold. And it's colored vinyl, but the selection of the colored vinyl, it seems kind of random. It doesn't really seem to fit the artwork of the album. It's clear with a blue blob, and there's no blue anywhere else on the album. I don't know. Let's put a blue blob in. Yeah. Anyway, I wouldn't call it their best album, but it's definitely good. Madeline. So basically, they're metalcore, even some psych metal, and they have perhaps hints of death metal. I wouldn't call them a death metal band by any means, but some close comparisons would be Avenged Sevenfold, Bullet for My Valentine, or even Opeth. So, very, very good listen. So glad I picked it up. Yeah, but not their best. All right, so so this next one. So I was looking for Bollywood music on vinyl, and this came up on Amazon, and it was pretty darn cheap. So I figured I would give it a shot, and yeah, you'll see. So it's Harifin So, and it's Bollywood-inspired film music from Hausa, Nigeria. And it's a compilation. There you see the different titles and artists on there. And although it's good, Bollywood music is definitely better. I love Bollywood music. Did you know that about me? Anyway, so I would have liked there to be more. I think on the first side especially, I would have liked there to be more instrumentation from Nigeria, like traditional instruments involved. But it was just kind of more electronic, I guess. So I was a little disappointed, but still good, and I'm glad I have it in my collection, and it was cheap, so yeah. Not Bollywood, though. All right. This next one, I have to thank Steve Carlson. He recently showed a Joe McPhee album. And so Steve Carlson is deliberately trying to get into free jazz. And he admitted, you know, it's not his easiest genre to listen to. But he did seem to like Joe McPhee's solo album, which I considered getting based on his recommendation, but it was like around the $25 mark. So I looked for other albums by him and came up with this actual trio called Plan B, featuring Joe McPhee, James Keepnews, and David Berger. This is From Outer Space, and it's whereas the solo album that Steve showed, I don't remember offhand what it was. That one definitely leaned more towards free jazz. This one is more avant-garde jazz. So, Steve, you might find this one easier to listen to. Yeah, but loved it, and thank you for that recommendation, because that led me to this. All right, so occasionally on Amazon, I'll look to see, you know, what albums have been released on vinyl recently, and my jaw dropped when I saw this one. One of my favorite bands as a teenager, The Alarm. They recently came out with this just this year, Sigma. And now, whenever it's been a while since someone has released a classic band has released an album, you're a little apprehensive, or at least you should be. But let me tell you, I would put this right up there with the newer albums of like Cheap Trick, or even the Monkees, where it's like a true comeback album where they're like, yeah, this band still rocks. And this album is no exception. I was very, very pleased. So basically, they're alternative or college rock or even dance rock. This particular album is definitely more the alternative rock. Some bands you might compare them to, Big Country, Midnight Oil, even the Waterboys. Yeah, so I was so pleased. So pleased. But yeah, they're the Alarm's latest album from 2019. Very, very cool. I might as well show you I'm bad about showing contents. It's just because I'm trying to breeze through this stuff. But it did come with this poster. And I guess lyrics or credits. Lyrics on the inside. Anyway, so there is that. Thrilled to pick that up. And the last one. Yeah. So I was listening to Sirius XM, and occasionally I put it on the. I think the channel is just called The Groove, and it plays like funk and basically funk, some soul, but definitely leaning heavily towards funk. So I put that on, probably on my drive home, and this song came on, and I was like, I must buy this. And that song was called It's Just Begun by the Jimmy Castor Bunch. Yeah. So basically this is definitely funk, soul, R&B. I don't really know who to compare it to. Yeah, I would be hard pressed to compare it to someone. What is it? There's the Temptations album. I think it's called 1990, where it either is or is almost like a concept album, and you get kind of a similar feel from this, but definitely a different sound. It is very funky and kind of out there. I loved it. This one I had to get on Discogs, and it took over a month to receive it, maybe like 6 weeks. And the seller is in the US, so I was pretty upset with that, but I got it, and it's in the condition that they described, which is basically near mint. So very, very happy with that. And anyway, this is a longer video than I had intended, but I had some good music to show you for a change. So, so anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.